Hey everybody, Rory Fry here with Perform Recovered. You mind my voice, I'm a little bit raspy. I've been under the weather the last few days, few weeks. So I'm a little bit gravelly, however you want to say it, I don't know. But anyways, I had a few minutes before my first job here, and I'm in lovely South San Jose. So I decided to pull over to park over here. I just went to 7-Eleven and bought some cough drops and a mask, right? Because that's what we got to do in 2020. We got to have a lot of masks. But anyways, if you see the title of the video, and hey, hello to whoever's watching, I've been thinking about the topic of relapse the last few days. But let me clarify, I have not been thinking about relapsing myself. That's the last thing I want to do. But I've been thinking about the topic of relapse the last few days. And I've addressed this in other places on here, but I thought I would address it again, right? Because it's obviously something that those of us that are in recovery, we encounter all the time, just through friends, associates, maybe people that we're sponsoring, or God forbid, people who are sponsoring us. I mean, crazy stuff happens. But it does seem that relapse is a part of recovery. And I know that's kind of a debated idea right there. But I would say that if you're around the recovery community, in any sense, in any degree, that you see relapse on a regular basis. For me, for example, I think about let's say the 4 or 5 people that helped me the most when I first got sober. I think, besides one, I think one of them has stayed sober this whole time. The rest of them, in the 9 years that I've been sober, have relapsed at some point. One of them relapsed and died. I mean, that's sucks to say, but one of them relapsed and died, and that was actually somebody who was instrumental to me entering into recovery. But I was talking to a friend yesterday, and they admitted to having a slip up. I'm not going to say names or anything like that. And I was talking to another friend a few weeks before that, and they had a slip up, and they had lost their housing over it. They were having friction with the family because of it. They lost their job because of it. And it's just this downward spiral. But when I was talking to my friend yesterday, I wanted to send him a Bible verse, and I think I will. And it's a Bible verse that you've been around the church for any amount of time. You've heard Romans 8:28. Let me read the verse. I'll read it from the ESV. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. I don't need my seatbelt on. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purposes. Now, it's easy to kind of hear that verse and just write it off, and yeah. You see it on placards, you see it on bumper stickers, you see it on fridge magnets, you see it on t-shirts, you see it on coffee mugs. But it really is such a good verse, and it really is such a profound verse, that we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good. All things work together for good. So that means the good works together for good, but the bad works together for good. So in terms of recovery, a successful day in recovery is working together for our good. But even on a bad day, like in terms of relapse, well, this is working together for good as well. In some way, God is using this relapse for our good. He's using it to further develop us, to further draw us closer to him. And that's that's a desire of your heart. If you want to be closer to God, he's using this to draw you closer to him. And I know maybe when it comes to relapse, there might be a lesson to learn in all this. It might be an indication of maybe where a program was suffering, or an area of someone's life that they can touch up. I like Narcotics Anonymous because it talks about how, a relapse could even be the thing that kickstarts us into an even better recovery. And I like that image right there. It might be the catalyst for somebody really, really jumping into this thing and really doing this thing like their life depends on it. I think that's important there. And NA even has the chapter Relapse and recovery. And I wish AA had some more in the big book to say about. But anyways, that's just me rambling. But God can use this for good too, because naturally when somebody relapses, they're always very shameful about themselves. Oh man, they real down on themselves. But they forget this. Say you've been in recovery for 6 years. You've been clean and sober for 6 years, and you had one bad day in 6 years. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So there's a tendency to focus on the negatives instead of looking at the positives. Like, yeah, man, you had a slip. But guess what? We all slip up. We might not all relapse, but we all slip up. We all have fails. We all bump our shins. We all skin our knees. But we just got to get back up, and we got to keep pushing forward. Like the Apostle Paul says, I forget what's behind me, and I strain towards the goal. I strain towards the future. And we do that in the attitude of Romans 8:28, knowing that God is working in all things, and God causes all things to work together for our good and ultimately for His glory. So if you've relapsed recently, don't be down on yourself. It was a slip. Get back up. If you're thinking about it today, don't do it. Don't do it. It's better not to. But don't worry. If you love the Lord and you're chasing after Him, God still loves you. Your relapse doesn't mean that God doesn't love you anymore. And your relapse doesn't mean that you don't love God. So don't go down that pit. Don't go down that shame. Just keep pushing ahead. Do the next right thing. Call upon the Lord. Ask for forgiveness. And just strain towards the goal. Because God can use the relapse. God can use this backslide to build you, to mold you, to shape you, to sculpt you. And it's not that He can, but it's that He will use these things. If you remain humble and teachable, God will use these things to transform you for good. So I just wanted to say that, if you've had that experience lately, don't kill yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Get back on the horse, like my buddy Glenn just said in the comments. Get back on the horse. Don't wallow in pity. Don't do those things that you naturally want to do right now. When I hear about somebody relapsing, I'll tell you something. When I hear about somebody relapsing, I usually tell that person, hey, you know what? I'm surprised that we all don't relapse more often. I don't get how anyone's sober. I really don't get why he's sober, but that person fell away. I'll always tell them that. And I'll always encourage them, get back on. This is just a slip. And then when I'm done talking to that person, I don't condemn them in my head. I don't cross my arms and, I knew that was going to happen. That's what that person gets. That's what that person deserves. No, I look at that relapse and I look at myself and I say, God, well, why them and not me? And it makes me that much more grateful for my recovery and that much more grateful for my sobriety, because I know every day of my life that I have areas in my life that I'm slipping up in, that I'm lacking in. I have areas in my life I'm not turning over to God. I'm not analyzing. So it just makes me that much more grateful for my recovery as I weep for that person and as I pray and I hope for that person to get back on the horse, to get back at it. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that real fast and read you guys Romans 8:28 again. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, even your relapse, even your backslide, for those who are called according to His purpose. Because the fact of the matter is God has a plan, and God has a future for your life. And this relapse, this backslide, painful as it is, it's working towards that goal, and it's working towards that future. So that being said, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to get to this next job. And message us, hit up Glenn, hit up anybody if you need And if you need to talk to somebody, if you're, on the brink of maybe going out or something like that, hit us up, man. We love to talk to you. And whatever you do, trust in the Lord, and He'll make all things right. So with that being said, I'm out of here. Bye, guys.